He held his breath, then let it out again when he saw Elaine standing in the doorway. She would know what to do, he thought. She was 16 years old and almost all grown up. He watched as Elaine moved toward the bed, waiting for her to say something, do something. Just as the little boy was about to call out to his sister, he saw her suddenly raise her hands above her head. He saw the meat cleaver from the kitchen clutched in her hands, and he saw the cleaver flash down, and heard the sounds as the hard metal slashed through his father's skull. He watched horrified as his sister raised the cleaver again, and brought it down into his mother's face. He thought he heard his mother scream, but it was too quick for him to be sure. Frozen, he watched as his sister raised the cleaver again and again, bringing it flashing through the air. Long after they had both stopped moving, the knife continued to flash until all he could see was silver and red. Terrified, the little boy huddled in the closet, wondering if his sister was going to find him and start hitting him too. But she was standing still now, looking at what she had done. She dropped the bloody cleaver on the bed and knelt down on the floor, as if looking for something he couldn't see. She stood up again and pulled a chair to the center of the room, directly below the light fixture in the ceiling. She climbed up onto the chair and began tying something to the light fixture. It was an electrical cord, the kind his parents used when they needed something longer than the cords that came on the electric things. He saw his sister tie the other end of the cord around her neck, and he realized what she was going to do. She was going to hang herself. He'd seen pictures of it. But if she hung herself, who would take care of him? He had to stop her. The little boy finally found his voice. He screamed, and as the wail escaped his throat, the girl on the chair spun around and lost her footing. As the chair fell away from her, the closet door swung open, and their eyes met. And then her neck snapped. It was over. Much later, he didn't know how much later, he heard a scream. He didn't respond to it. He was huddled in the corner of the closet, his knees drawn up under his chin, his arms wrapped around his legs. He thought he heard some other noises too, and even later he was aware that the closet door was being pulled open. It wasn't until a pair of arms reached down and picked him up that he started crying. They kept him in a hospital for the first day after the discovery of the gruesome scene in the bedroom. The nuns took care of him and asked him a lot of questions, but he couldn't answer any of them. On the second day, they took him to the convent. He didn't know what a convent was, only that it was a big building, and there were lots of nuns there who fussed over him a lot. And there were other children there, children who lived there. The little boy wondered if he, too, was going to live there. On the third day, they took him to church, and the little boy realized that his parents weren't going to come and get him. He realized that they were in the boxes at the front of the church, and that after the boxes were taken away, he wouldn't see them again. During the funeral service, the little boy kept looking curiously around the church, and shortly before the service ended, he tugged at the black folds of the habit the woman next to him was wearing.
"Where's Elaine?"
he asked.
"Isn't she going to be here?"
The nun stared at the little boy for a moment, then shook her head.
"She can't be here,"
the nun said finally.
"You mustn't think about her anymore, or talk about her." "Why not?"
the little boy asked.
"Your sister was an evil child and she has sinned. You mustn't think about her."
The funeral mass ended, and his parents were taken from the church. He watched them go and wondered what had happened to them, and what had happened to his sister, and why he was by himself. But of course, he wasn't by himself. He was in the convent, but no one would tell him why. He heard someone, one of the sisters, say, "He'll get over it. He'll forget. It will be better that way." The little boy did not forget. Not while he was small, and not while he grew up. Always he was aware that something had happened. Something had happened to his parents and to his sister, and his sister had caused it to happen. His sister was evil. She had sinned. He knew that God forgave sinners, but who punishes them? By the time he was 10, he had stopped asking. Nobody had ever told him the answer. Peter Balsam trudged to the top of Cathedral Hill and stared up at the forbidding stone facade of the Church of St.